Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, and welcome to the Town Promotion Committee. Welcome to everyone in the room, including those who are watching online. Can I just remind everyone that phones should be turned off or turned to silent and not used to make calls or send messages during the meeting. Interruptions from chairs of other meetings might get snapped on over there. I have 4 apologies. Councillors Hetherington, Green, Driver and Wing. It looks like everyone else is here, so I don't think there are any more. You're here, aren't you? No, you're here. So I haven't got you, have I?
Councillors Nixie, Hetherington, Wing and Driver.
Driver. Did I say? Yep. My apologies there, Councillor Green. I got it wrong. What a surprise. Any declarations of interest? No. In that case, very rapidly.
What we said among the members of the Town Team Committee, if that's relevant to Rebecca's report.
Okay, I don't think it will make any difference, but thank you for just mentioning it. Yeah. I don't think it doesn't hugely impact. And so you. Okay, which moves us straight on to the first main item on the agenda, which is to say, hello, Simon. Simon is our new...
Hello.
Simon is our new active work
Project.
active Ramsgate project manager. Gone out of the head. You lot just thrown me completely. I'm not going to say any more about Simon. I'm just going to ask him if he can just say hello and tell us a little bit about himself, please.
Sure. Well, stand up so you're not waiting for the start. So I'm Simon. It's nice to meet you all formally. I know I've met some of you around the room through various things, passing, or indeed, I know Rachel from working with the Short Start Centre and the nursery. I'm actually, I'm a DFL of 2 years, so don't hold that against me. I've fallen in love with Ramsgate.
I'm one of 50 years. So
I'm one of 50, yeah. I feel like I'm down the generations anyway. But yeah, that's so I'm coming up 2 years being in Ramsgate. I absolutely love it, and so I'm really keen to be part of the council supporting all the active Ramsgate brief. My background professionally, I'm a comms and campaigns person. I've worked largely for charities in international development and national government, including Consent Number 10, and then after that I set my own business. So I've ran quite a few projects over my time as well, so hopefully I tick all the boxes for what's required in this role. And so far, I'm actually, so you know, I'm sure most of you do, but the role's 50% of the time, so I've been doing the role for 5 weeks now. Just about. That's equivalent to basically 2.5. So I'm still sort of finding my feet, but I've been fantastically helped along by Rebecca and the team in that time already, and they have done a great job of absorbing millions of questions that I'm firing at them almost daily. It's slowed down a bit now, and I sort of feel like I've sort of found my feet. But really, so far, what I've been doing is sort of auditing what's been going on and getting my head around the Ramsgate brief. I can say from what I've got my head around already, it's been a fantastically successful project to this to now, and I'm really looking forward to taking that forward. In some ways, it's been a bit of a victim of its own success. It's grown so much, and part of my first job is to consolidate and look at what's really working well and get some benchmarks and data of what we can do and know for the future is going to be the best activities and experiences that will pull people into the town. And looking ahead as well, very much to ensure that it's engaging the local community throughout as well. So that's about it. So I've got through so far. Happy to answer any questions you might have at this stage. Obviously, I'm still picking things up, but I've got a sort of good idea where we're going with it. I'm looking forward to taking it a lot further.
Happy to allow a couple of questions if people want to ask, but just be nice to him still. Anyone got any questions?
No, just a welcome to Ramsgate Town Council.
Looks like you've been let off the hook on that, and just welcome. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the working group's draft terms of reference, item 4, which I'm going to hand over to the Marketing and Communications Officer.
Okay, so every year we have to re-establish the working groups for this committee. In previous years there were 4 groups. That was the Active Ramsgate Working Group, the Editorial Web and Website Working Group, the Open Public Spaces Strategy Group and the Visitor Information Centre Working Group. Going forward, we've reviewed a couple of these and we found that some of these groups are either redundant or will overlap with work going forward for new projects. The 2 that we're looking to remove are the Editorial and Website Working Group and the Visitor Information Centre Working Group. The Editorial Working Group hasn't met in person in the last year. It's just been solely an online proofreading group. But with the work being undertaken by myself for the communication strategy, we'll be feeding in and reviewing website and content online anyway. So I don't see a point in having a working group that the town council is going to be dealt with by finance in the future. I would recommend though that a informal proofreading group is still kept for proofreading the magazine and content as it goes. The Visitor Information Centre Working Group, that also hasn't met, although it's met with volunteers due to the success of the town promoter who manages it directly. There's not really been a need to have a working group actually meet and decide, because any decisions for funding or anything like that is brought by Rebecca straight back to town promotion anyway. So it just seems another obstacle in a way of actually making things more efficient. So jumping straight into the first one is the Active Ramsgate Working Group. So there's a few changes. So obviously we've 2 previous contractors are gone and Simon's now joined us. So there's the swap over of membership and basically that's it. The terms of reference are there with the green highlighted changes. There was a change to add digital informatic data in, which was a suggestion by Simon, and also that all the written communication is checked, including Simon as well.
Does everyone agree with that? David, Councillor Green.
No problem with membership. I think that's probably right. But can it be? Can all councillors turn up if they wish?
I see why not.
If you wish to amend the terms of reference to that, yeah.
Do I need to from?
At the moment, it says 2 elected members from RTC, so you could make it all elected members if you wish to make that amendment.
That might be going too far.
Chair.
It don't, sorry, Councillor.
Yeah, I know what David's getting at here, but I do think if it's open to everybody, it's going to be given to the, for a working group. That's the problem, I think.
I think on a practical level, I mean, if a couple of extra people turn up, it would be manageable. I think so it could be open if someone wants to become involved and take a more active part in it. We do have other representatives may be invited to attend. At the moment, it is generally the councillors that are present are the chair and the vice chair of the group, which we have got over on the next page.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, really, I don't think you should have anything formal. I just think what should happen is that what can happen is that if the councillor wants to attend, they can contact Dean and you can do that on an ad hoc basis. There might be one specific item on there that they want to speak about.
Yep.
And I think I personally propose that to the front item, Jim.
I'm sitting there.
Just that we need to see the agendas.
I was just going to say, yeah, we can send the agenda out, can't we?
Yep.
So circulate the agenda, and then if anyone wants to come along, to contact me and just say, and then if I suddenly find I've got another 14 people turning up, I might go, please fight it out amongst yourselves, and highly unlikely, I have to say, but fight it out amongst yourselves, perhaps only 2 or 3. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay, you amend that then?
Yep, I'll get that amended.
Okay.
Do you want to go through each group first, or
Oh,
do you want to assign the chairs and the vice chairs?
yeah, while we're on this one, we'll do the chairs and the vice chairs. Previously, the chair of the Active Ramsgate Working Group and the vice chair have been the chair and the vice chair of the Town Promotion Committee. I would like to propose that we continue with that. That would mean that it's myself and Councillor Huxley. Is everyone, thank you. Is everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
Thank you. That's it, isn't it?
Yeah. So the second working group or strategy group is the Open Public Spaces Strategy Group. There has been a change of membership for that, obviously for obvious reasons with the passing of Chris Barton. So we're putting in there either Maxine or Gary as the other lead technicians that can attend to contribute for that. The amendments are also in green on that, which I believe there's a proposal from the chair proposed meeting 4 times per year to be agreed by strategy group in accordance with the need. And that's the only amendment.
Yeah, if I can just make a comment on that. Originally, the meetings were every month whilst we were getting going and getting set up, and it was always intended that that would be reviewed after 6 months. At the moment, we're in a position where a certain amount of work has been done, but we're waiting for negotiations to happen with Thanet District Council in order to get permissions and SLAs, service level agreements in place, which is taking a little time. I think 4 meetings a year as an approximation, that allows us, the normal plan is that we will have 2 volunteer events a year, so that allows us to meet in advance of the volunteer events, plus a couple of other meetings either side of it. And again, got it on here, the chair of and vice chair last year were, again, the chair and vice chair of the Town Promotion Committee. If everyone's happy with that, Councillor Orban?
Just a comment, Chair. As you know, I'm the Cabinet Member for Open Spaces for Thanet District Council, and I'm more than happy to attend should you wish me to, provided I have nothing else in my...
I think your presence would be useful, actually, yes. Yeah. Everyone else agree? Thank you. Okay, and the only other thing I'd like to say just before we move on from this one is obviously a recognition and thanks to Chris. I was trying to remember his surname there, it's gone. To Chris Barton for all the work he did in actually getting this up and running with us. He did so much work on preparing the pocket parks and getting the information together that we needed for that. So thank you. That's the end of those 2 items. Is there any questions? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the town promotion update. Now, before I hand over to Rebecca, the first 3 items on the agenda are really for us to note the information here. They're ongoing projects that the Town Centre and Tourism Manager has been working on. So just very briefly, does anyone have any questions about the lighting for the harbour arches, which is the item 1 on her report? The lighting for the harbour arches. Any questions on the Town Centre and Tourism Manager's report? The dedicated hanging poles?
I like them. I think it's good.
Yeah.
I like it.
How do you stand up for?
quote today, so that
Yes.
to give an idea.
A further update from Town Centre and Tourism Manager.
So just on the number 2 on my report, dedicated hanging poles. I've had a quote in today just for supply at £3.20 each, and that would be a 75mm powder coated pole. It would be about 2.5 metres with the 2 arms. But there's still an issue around installation, so I've asked a couple of other businesses locally for quotes to see if they'll include installation, and also Kent County Council have recommended someone in the meantime if I can't get anyone else to install, because it's a highways project which they're supporting. So.
Okay. That's the green.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I support these, but remind me, do you have to budget for them?
Where was the budget? So we've got all of our budget our budget notes here. Where was the budget coming from? I know I've seen it, it's not in here.
It was supposed to be from the town beautification budget with
That's right.
around 10,000 already dedicated to palms and plants, so this would be an extra if we went ahead. And if we had 8 of those, it would be around 3,290 quid with VAT. And that does include installation, which I imagine will be.
But the committee has this budget, doesn't it?
And can you confirm that that is within the budget allocation for the year?
It is until we get onto the next few projects. So.
That's really my point of my answer.
I know we've got spoken to them, but we have to talk to Kent County Council, they're located, they're on the highway.
So they're on the pavement, obviously, not the actual road, but they are close to the road. I had a site visit with Paul Vallock and Richard Heaps, so from the street scene.
They're on site.
They're on side, they happen to us to install them, replacing their bollards, so we can take out bollards, potentially every other one, and try to get 8 along there to sort of have a fairly good impact on that welcome into the town centre.
Yes.
And the third item to note is the Eastcliff Bandstand Lights Assessment. Any questions on that? That's just a progress update again. Now, as Councillor Green has already highlighted, finances are always an issue, and for that reason I have asked that out on the table you should have a copy of the overall budget that was agreed last year.
You've got the copy.
Sorry?
You've only got the one.
Oh, my apologies. I've got the only copy. I thought everyone had one. Right. Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, I'll make it up as I go along. Thank you. In that case, so all those 3 items, update noted. Everyone agreed? Thank you. And I'm now going to hand over to the Town Centre and Tourism Manager for the next 3 items. The first one of which is the installation of display boards in Harbour Parade.
So, see, you've read the reasons why we think this might be a good idea. Also to add, which is relevant to the other display board I'm suggesting, we have since COVID lost the tourist information points, so those blue big boards that you see that are often used to have events and things in them. There are 26 of them around town, and we have 11 in town around Ramsgate in various wards, and we've lost access to those. Working with Ramsgate Society, we do have access to this one in Harbour Parade, which is really useful, and it's in a great location. However, the back of it is often blighted with graffiti, which our technicians duly tend to when it happens and it's reported. So the idea was that we went back to Shelley Signs, who installed this original sign, and got a quote from them to have one to sit on the back of that. So we've got basically two options to promote events, and hopefully it will also deal with the graffiti issue. As you can see, the price to supply and send and deliver is 1775, and I'm happy to report that Ramsgate Society, since writing this report, phoned me to say that they after I asked them for a contribution, they've agreed to fund this £500 towards this particular project.
Right.
So that obviously brings it down to 1275 plus an installation fee of around £100. Somebody local can install it. There is enough funding in the VIC budget, so it's really to the council decide whether they want to support that project. And then the second suggested location is at Charlotte Court. Now, obviously, we have our own Saturday market, monthly Saturday market. That's on the last Saturday of every month. 24 stalls will be there at the end of this month. And we also support the Petonk courts there. We've recently re-gravelled that, for example. So it's an opportunity to use it for the community and for promoting events. Also, of course, it's just around the corner from Bradford House, and we have the monthly market down here as well. So there's can be some regular things that keep people interested. But hopefully the Petonk teams will, when they've got some key matches, or whatever, do they call them matches? Games. It would be, I think it would be really nice. We've got two sort of, beer garden places where people can sit and feel very continental watching Petonk on a Sunday afternoon. So they'll be able to promote. So they'll be able to promote their matches there. So hopefully it will increase their profile as well. Price-wise, for a double-sided, it's, as you can see, 2599. These are, if you can see from the picture, these are the sort of very traditional looking, but I think would be quite fitting in Charlotte Court. And it would have quite a nice space to promote that this is a Ramsgate Town Council initiative and that it's on a space that we own. There's also a local joiner who's quoted for a single-sided one at 1,500, which would be treated so to protect from being so near the coast. Or we could go for a single-sided from this same company, which would look exactly like that photo, and that's at 2,100.
What material that's in?
The one you can see, it's aluminium, but it will be marine treated.
And the idea of the whole, we've got worried about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got, 2 seconds. So we've got two proposals on here. First from the VIC budget and the second from the Charlotte Court budget. Councillor Green.
It's just a thought that I had. Sort of static notice boards a bit old hat nowadays in this electronic age. That might be rolled out in terms of cost, but it would make it much easier to refresh the contents if they're electronic.
When we've got a quote, we can answer.
Any other thoughts on that?
If I may, Chair, whilst I don't disagree with what Councillor Green just said, but I think we're talking conservation area, and I just think, this is my personal opinion, I just think that
Looks, yeah.
looks nice, it's nice. Electronics are
Too modern.
yeah.
This is really traditional for Charlotte Court.
If I may say, I think the key is keeping the paperwork on the inside up to date, which is something that I trust us to do a little bit more than I might trust some other organisations to do. So I think that will be the key that we.
I don't think it's why we lost access to the TDC boards.
A decision was made to have sort of generic information about the coast with access to where people can find out information from via the Visit Valley website. So a lot of that, it is a loss. They are still valuable, particularly because people do wander around and it's another place for them to find that information. You're right about digital, obviously that's increasing the time, but there's still a value in leaflets, for example. Spend a lot of money on posters. And also they've lost a lot of spaces to put posters in windows of shops because less and less are willing to take them. And obviously multiple shops are not happy to, so it's just totally independent. So I think there's still a place for them, and they are good information points.
And what about the board that we've got outside the entrance here?
It's quite small, so we can occasionally, we do use it because it's used for announcements, and there are quite a lot of meetings that it is well used by the office.
Right.
Really.
So it's more about the announcements for the council rather than other things. Okay. So if I can, so did you want? No. So if I can actually split this into two, from the VIC budget, do we want to ask the Town Centre and Tourism Manager to progress with that one? Yeah. And that seems to be the most straightforward. And then the second one is another board in Charlotte Court, where we actually had two options between the marine protected treated aluminium, which is a little bit more expensive. Oh, sorry, Councillor Young.
Just wondering what Councillor Green was saying about something electronic. Could we have something here in front of the building? Because the footfall is quite high, isn't it, up and down? People wandering around, wondering what to do. If we had something sort of road, you know, the sort of thing.
Yeah.
Around
I think.
Latest information.
I think perhaps the best bet is if we ask the Town Centre and Tourism Manager and the Marketing and Communications Officer to discuss these and see how we might use that and come back to us at a later date with some ideas.
That's spoken, we're already to the grade 2 listed building, and you get any bulky lights. So you probably won't get it.
Permission?
But I will try and find out for TPC.
Yeah.
Conservation Officer first before you go anywhere with that.
But I wasn't talking about anything flashy, just talking about something general information.
But
it's still as a grade 2 listed building would.
Anything attached to it would need listed building consent. Yeah.
But if I can ask Dean and Rebecca to investigate it. It's all right, we're supposed to call them by their titles, not by the short name. If you can have a look at that and see whether or not it's viable, and if it's viable, have a look at the feasibility of it. Moving on to the second half of item 4, does anyone have any preference for the marine protected treated aluminium or the wooden version? Councillor Huxley. So we've got one. Yeah. Any other comments? So you're going for aluminium, right? Okay. So I need some more. Councillor Austin.
I think I was just like the idea of them. Worry, particularly in sort of tucked away, actual about fire, vandalism, that kind of thing. Then, I think we should have signs that look like this, and the start of every public park in fact. I suspect that it's a nice long.
So can I ask a question? What colour would this aluminium be?
Any colour any colour.
I'm asking because I think aluminium is silver, and I'm looking at a picture that's black, and I think
This is actually a dark green, so it's...
fair enough.
But,
I just think it can't. I mean, I think if it's a suitable colour, then my inclination is to go for the aluminium on the grounds that it is more durable. Yes. So, a couple of darks. Sorry.
What is the difference between aluminium and wood?
The price difference.
Price difference.
So the aluminium for a single-sided is 2,100 and the wood is 1,500, so £600.
The maintenance is less.
That's interesting.
But the durability and the maintenance will add costs onto that over time. So the initial setup cost is one thing. It's the life of it. Yeah. No, it's worth asking. Councillor Huxley.
The Hope one is actually hardwood, which is a bit against our green credentials of the council, isn't it? Unless it's sustainable. But then, of course, the metal might be unsustainable. Wow, aluminium.
We could go down this line forever. Okay, I think, Councillor Alban.
Slater's going down soon, I propose that we go for the aluminium colour.
Thank you, and I was just about to say I propose we have a vote on it, and you got in there before me. So we have a proposal for the aluminium version.
Is that single or double-sided?
Oh.
It makes a difference in the cost, so...
A difference in the cost is, do we want to go single or double-sided? Now we've decided on aluminium. Yeah. No, we haven't decided on aluminium. Let's have the aluminium vote first. Who's in favour of aluminium?
Yep.
I think that's carried. Okay, now we need to think about single and double-sided. So the single-sided is 2,100 and the double-sided is just shy of 2,600. Single-sided. Single. So that's a proposal and a second. Okay, do I have those in favour of single-sided rather than double-sided? And those in favour of double-sided? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I think we need to do that again. Those in favour of single-sided, Dean, you need to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. And those in favour of double-sided? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Double-sided it is. Okay, so the Charlotte Court budget is a little bit more spending on the dearest option that we've got. Councillor Green.
I think the only single or double-sided depends on the location.
I was going to say this.
If only one side is against the too.
Well,
No, really.
is it going to be the amendment for the Charlotte Court as well?
I would be thinking it's...
Some room.
Yeah, they're going to be there.
Not necessarily, so whilst a lot of it was dependent on whether it was double or single-sided, and then it would be really a matter of looking at how and where best we locate it for maximum impact.
So if we have it double-sided and we can get the right location, we will stick to double-sided. And if the ideal location means that we're not going to get the value out the second side, we can drop back to single-sided. Does everyone agree with that? Brilliant. Okay. Item 5 on Rebecca's report, lighting up the obelisk. Becca.
So many of you were aware that we trialled lighting up the obelisk for the coronation, and it was really successful. We just did it with installed lights that we marshalled for the period when we had them set up. It was visible from both cliffs, out to the piers, on the pier arms, and I thought it looked really, really good. So at the moment, it's just a seed of an idea. What I was thinking is, if we are successful with our application for the harbour arch festoon lights, And just for those that aren't sort of aware from the outset when we started discussing this, the plan is that we'd install will be 540 LEDs to the main 18 arches, and every evening as it hits twilight, they would do a dance. So they'd do a little display, different colours, that people would come and watch, hopefully, and then they would decamp into the bars and restaurants. And this, doing the obelisk as well, there's an opportunity that we can synchronise. You can buy a piece of kit that, as long as it's within 900 metres, you can synchronise the two displays, so that obviously it will be a more linear version, but it will be doing the same dance. So, for example, we are in Pride Month. This month we might do a sequence of rainbow colours with these lights. And then after 10 minutes, they're set to either warm or bright white, and that will be it until they come off around midnight every evening. Similarly, with the obelisk, we can use the same sort of lights. They're all tricolour lights, so they can be mixed to any colour that you want. They would be complementing the arch display, and then they would be set to the white or the warm white, whichever was decided looked the nicest. And again, that would go off around midnight. So that's the idea. Obviously, again, we've got the same issues around it being a Grade 2 listed structure, but the concrete around it isn't. However, we would need to install these lights so that they were connected to an electricity supply, potentially from the public toilets. So it would involve some sort of engineering, and that would probably be the most costly bit to do this as a permanent installation.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Can I ask first, who saw the obelisk lights during the coronation events and it being lit up?
Don't stay up that late.
It was after dark.
It was earlier in the season.
Yeah, it was so light till in there. Did anyone see it?
Yeah.
I did send everybody a video, so if you've got a WeTransfer file from me.
And we do have a couple of photographs, 3 photographs here.
Really good.
I did see it, and I did actually take a photograph of it, although I think I deleted it. So perhaps I can ask for some opinions on this, because this is completely open to whether or not we want to ask Rebecca to follow this up. So who wants to say anything? Councillor Orban.
Yeah, in principle, I think it's great. And I think it's another small attraction. And I think vast majority of people will like it, whether it's the greatest of this construction or not. And I just think it looks really good. And I'm totally in favour of it, and I think we should ask, I want to mention.
I've given up again.
That would be my.
Anyone else?
It's a pity you can't see it from France.
Anything more constructive on I like it or I don't like it? You like it?
What did you think of it?
It's Marmite, comes in the same category as the beacons. That's my view, sorry. Councillor Moore.
It's a shame really that when they had the lights on Wellington Crescent, neighbours complained. They were lovely. A friend of mine lived in a balcony flat. She used to sit on the balcony watching the lights. It was really lovely.
I think that's more to do with the activities of the young people.
Well, I wasn't going to mention that.
Yeah, I don't think the lighting up of the obelisk will be anything other than a light on the obelisk. I don't think it's going to attract crowds around it in that same way as you say. So, anyone else? Okay, in that.
Need a second.
Well, in that case, yeah. So I've got a seconder. And can we vote? The question is, are we going to ask Rebecca to find out more about it and come back with a firmer proposal? Those in favour? Those against? Looks like I've lost. Okay. And now the last item on the Town Centre and Tourism Manager's report is item 6, the Wayfinding and Street Art Project.
Okay, so this was back this time last year. I was asked to do a report on the town. It was around the town beautification and looking at how we can make the town centre look a bit more appealing and welcoming and feel a bit more loved. I think it was Councillor Green that was particularly interested in having something at the station so that people, when they arrive, they immediately feel that there's a warm, welcoming arrival from Ramsgate. Exactly. So, and encouraging people to come to the town centre and to the harbour and beach. So, the Cultural Consortium was formed on the back of the Heritage Action Zone initiative that's finished now, but this is one of the legacies of it. They had a little bit of funding, so there was £6,000, and I was invited as a voluntary group. So as the chair of the town team, I had submitted an expression of interest, which won the bid. Alongside that, we, the town team, also working with East Kent College to try and refresh one of our first projects back in 2014, which was the Abbots Hill panels. We also were awarded another £1,000 to work with East Kent College to refresh those panels. So we got, and they're very keen, the students, to have a pupil-inspired artwork created, and with the new owners of Brooks, they have given permission, so we've got the go-ahead for that part of the project. And that will start in September, and in fact they're going to include it as part of their coursework. So it's Historic England are very pleased because they work with infants, juniors and high school, but not college, so this is a big tick from them on many levels. So, as Councillor Green suggested, the idea we put forward as a council was to display some artwork in the subway in the station. And if you've been to the subway recently, my photos probably don't do that awful bit of the station justice. And as you know, it's had a massive refurb up there, and the building itself looks beautiful, another Grade 2 listed building. The subway really lets it down. So the idea was that we would, working with local artists, have this artwork hanging on the walls. In fact, there's a slight change to this, but at the moment that's a work in progress for us, but it will be these artworks going up. So that's the sort of first part of the project. And then as you come, and as you'll see, there's the history storyboards. There will be one that references Ravens Cliff Gap being the first name from Anglo-Saxon period that we have as a reference to the name Ramsgate. Hence why we've gone for Ravens route. So the artist that's done this history board, she will do sort of a chronological name check on Ramsgate from Heathramsgate, Ravenscliff Gap, down to the name Ramsgate. And there will be no rams jumping over a gate. Then we had to look at a design that Historic England were happy with regards to the ravens and making them feel more friendly. There is a few collective nouns for ravens, but the favourite of mine is rave of ravens. We will forget about the other ones like an unhelpfulness of or unkindness or something like that. Yeah, a rave of ravens. And the idea that Historic England are very keen on for phase one is the transformation of the monoliths that we already own. It was part of a project Town Council, Town Team and Thanet District Council were involved in, and representative from Ramsgate Society 5 years ago. So the idea for these is working with another agreed colour from Historic England, this sort of quite a bright orange. I think they like to call it Pugin orange. Altering the top of the monoliths, so that really stands out, and at the top of it there will be this, what they call a finial, with either a cut-out raven or a painted black raven, and that will form the first part of the raven's route. There are 3 locations for the monoliths going down towards one at the bottom of Harbour Street and one by Wetherspoons. And then there are 4 finger posts en route where we will change the arms or the legends on the finger posts to this bright orange with finials on top to kind of link that first bit. So it's kind of, this is a bit of an anchor for the project. On its own, it won't be that effective because there aren't that many. I'm just started working with a local cartographer who's also a designer, so we can perhaps create a Ravens route as well. But as you'll see from slide 17, there are 4 phases to the wayfinding project. And one of the other key ones is working with a local street artist. Her name's Joni Belaruski, and she happens to love painting corvids. And corvids, so all the blackbirds. So crows are her thing, but she's very good at changing the beak and the size and making it look more raven-like. In a friendly kind of way. There's lots of colour involved, and that will be linked with the colours that we're again working with Historic England. I'd like to point out at this point actually the colour palette that you have on here is for reference only. It hasn't come out particularly well anyway, but the Historic England colour palette is something that we are working on. This isn't it. This was me working with a designer and the colours that were chosen. The designer that's supported me with this part of the project really well is a chap called Guy Sortel, who's helped me on a few projects before. The orange is the agreed colour that is actually in their palette as well, so we think that will work quite well.
It's a lot brighter than heritage. That little bit of
yeah.
I like it.
If you can see from the mock-up of the monoliths, it does make it really stand out, whereas they are kind of almost part of the furniture. This will hopefully make people take notice of it. So, in order to make this project feel more cohesive quite quickly, there are some elements of this that the Cultural Consortium are keen for the Town Council to support, which I have referenced in slide 19. So this includes match funding on the Fitzpatrick Walmer, who were the original fabricators and installers of the monolith and finger post. They actually came back with a quote over 10,000 for this particular brief that I gave them, and I have got them down to just over 7,000. And that's with them installing as well, which is key really, because they know they make these. They have a factory, they fabricate them, and I think to get the best result, it will be by keeping with them. And we've used them subsequently after their 5 years installation from 2017-18. They've added extra arms, etc., to top the puging steps, for example. The other key elements include trying to get at least 4 of these raven murals in that first part, especially, of that walk down from the station to the town centre and the top of the high street. The bench ends, again, we would be looking at a colour palette that was agreed with Historic England and members of the Cultural Consortium. We've found a local company that can do that a bit cheaper than the first quote, so they come in around £100 per set of bench ends to powder coat, and then we would reinstall them. We'd probably go for 3 colours around the town, but if they're bright but they're still respectful of the area, we think that they'll make a really good impact. There's about 20 benches in the town centre pedestrianised bit, so I think that would make quite a nice impact on adding some colour. And you might note from my report that this next one on this slide 19 is the discrepancy on funding or potential funding. The railings project here, so we originally talked about having these artworks that we're hoping to hang in the subway, having them here as well, so there's a link. People can sort of hopefully think about that link. There are some issues around those railings at the moment because of the Levelling Up Fund project involving the plaza on East Pier Yard car park. So that's that one should be in brackets, but unfortunately I found that out after I'd done this one and then was able to change the report. Window decals, again, it's something we've looked at. We know that the likes of New Look at £150,000 a year rent is until 2027, that's being paid, and that they won't relinquish that to anyone else unless they get something very near that or above it. We're likely to have that empty for up until 2027, so another 4 long years. So with that in mind, I think that would be a really good place to put some decals. Again, we can use some of these storyboards interlaced with some of the colourful designs that reference Ramsgate in a creative way. Also, there's an opportunity with the false plasterboard type fake door they've got on that to do a mural on there as well. One of the quick wins is getting you'd think it was a quick win. Cost is quick and the installation would be quick, but trying to find out who can actually give me permission is not quick. But the 2 bus stops at the station, nobody wants to own up to who can give me permission, and I have been around everybody. At the moment it's laying with Kent County Council, who are being helpful. But they would be, for £100 we would have decals that say, this bus will take you to Ramsgate Harbour, this one will take you to QEQM. It is very simple and very quick and cheap,
Excuse me, what's a decal?
So the decal is the clear things that you can stick on windows. You can put them on your car windows as well, but these are big ones. The look-up ravens was something we talked about again last year. And this sort of fits with the one-day report, again, bench ends, etc. Is the look-up ravens would be just looking up with maybe a QR or a short paragraph with a tiny URL to tell a bit of history or a story on that building. So, for example, Harbour Street's got the tiny little gold and silver mine, the first shop in Ramsgate. So, little stories like that. The building opposite that goes on forever. There are some nice stories. Equally, we've got attractions, Maritime Museum, tunnels, Grange, St Augustine's. and so on, that we could have look-up railings. And there's a quote there from a local company, Climategate. And then the last one, and this again possibly should be in brackets because TDC may have some funding to renew their More To banners with a new campaign. However, I've spoken to Bay Media and they're happy for us, if TDC are happy and don't decide to continue with that campaign, we could use the banner designs that you'll see in here. Please remember they're actually much thinner and longer and they look really good. And they were actually designed for banners with the banners in mind. We could have 5 of those, hiring those fixings, Bay Media install, ensure, maintain, but to do 10 of them, it is £329 a year, which includes the banners and everything else I've just mentioned. If they ripped, they would replace colours, but they're expensive, as is everything. Core groups, and they would then use the metal walls. Still, the cost would be, well, probably to do each side, it would cost around 8,000. But there is some, and it's one of a kind in Thanet, where it's a community partnership with railways and an art gallery, and that's Turner. So there's some public funding. We're just waiting to hear about that. I'm talking to their lead about potentially getting some funding there. And also I have talked to the Levelling Up Fund project manager and her apprentice with regards to, since this report was not mentioned, Councillor Austin has mentioned this fund as well recently, in the Shared Prosperity Fund. But a lot of that's revenue. I pitched that it does fit into the values and of that funding brief.
There's a set proportion of capital in it.
Yes, and yeah, that was just those additions. Yes.
Okay, so I saw several people putting their hands up. If you don't mind, can I ask the first question, which is, what is the gap in difference in the funding in hard numbers between what we've got and what it's going to cost? So I'm sure Councillor Green's going to come up with that one if I don't anyway.
Considering all 20 projects in the 4 phases, it would come in around 35,000, possibly more, because materials just keep going up. And some of these prices haven't been confirmed, for example, the mosaic tiles at the station. To be honest, for health and safety reasons, we would probably have to paint if we did anything there. So that's possibly not even one that would work. The rest could. That's a problem project. In terms of the town council, it would be fantastic if we could match in order to get that very first anchor project with the monoliths and the finger posts, and then the additional projects that we think will really help bring that project together and make it feel more cohesive. Would be, so this includes the upgrades to the monoliths, around £12,000. So 12,271, potentially 15,271 if we were to include the banner installation and the illustrative boards, which would be metal, on the railings here. So I guess in total 15,271 is the price,
and
plus VAT.
After everything that you've already spent, what's left in the budget at the moment? On all the other projects after taking the run out? That's the figure I'm looking for.
Yes. So with palms, we're saying we said sort of 10,000 for the palms. With the hanging baskets at the cost that they are at 3,290, that's already a 16,000 spend, the budget, town beautification budget is at 27,500. So that leaves 11,500.
So we need to
I'm
find them
winging
somewhere
that.
else.
Yeah. Did I get my sums right?
I don't know, because you've lost me in the
Dean
mental
nods,
arithmetic
Dean
there
nods,
lost
I'm
me.
happy.
Yeah, the beautification budget is 27,500. Take off the palms. Yeah, you have, and the hanging baskets, you have about 11,000 left.
So there's about 11,000 in the budget, and you're talking about a budget here of a total of 35,000, some of which you're going to be looking for funding from other sources. So roughly how much would you hope to get from other sources realistically?
Well, matching, obviously it doesn't have to be a 50% match, so we are hoping to be able to get another 20,000 if possible. There's Arts Council England is another option. The Turner and the Shared Prosperity are a couple of other options, but it's I've probably got more hope with the latter than the
So we're probably on that basis looking at a 5k shortfall. At which point are you nodding?
Yep.
Yeah. At which point I will look at the chair of F&GP and wonder whether or not it's possible for that kind of money to be wired across from any other budget. I'm sorry to put you on the spot there, you may not be able to answer.
Can I just say, I think this is a fantastic plan.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking those questions.
Particularly the aspect of linking the station through into the town, which I've been bleating on about for years now.
Yeah.
I think that's well worth doing. I do know that there is a lot of money going into encouraging people to, for walking routes and whatever. And this would seem to be ideal for that sort of funding as well. So, perhaps Tricia knows more about that than I do. But it just seemed to me that a lot of places are bidding for that sort of funding and getting real money. So I think we should try for that. But if there is a shortfall, then you just need to put a bid to finance and general purposes. And by the sound of it, it's quite a modest amount.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Austin.
I'm just going to say I'm intending to go to the consultation tomorrow on walking and cycling. I don't think that is going to talk about funding at all, but I'll do my best to try and find out if funding is in anything instead.
Councillor Young, sorry, I should come back to you soon.
I've just got quite excited looking at the posters and I thought, there's a way of making money. Because they don't have to be as big. They can be various sizes. And you can make quite a lot of money off of cards, things like that. Yeah, so we could have products with these posters, pictures.
So the designer will allow us to use, have a license to use it for certain things. So their costs for that copyright use in this way is quite nominal, but we won't own the designs, so there may be an issue there. I'm not worried because it's
Sure.
Look into it. You can look into it.
I can certainly look into it.
Because they'll make nice posters as well as anything really.
Okay, Councillor Makin.
I think it's fantastic. I noticed my house is in it.
It's going to have a plaque on your wall.
The big elephant on the way is bloody Station Approach Road. And I cannot think, even with my designer hats on, what on earth you do about Station Approach Road. Is there any
and if I can answer that. So one of the things, if just quickly check which one it is, but in phase 2, I think, or it's gone, we've added it to, well, I ended up putting it in phase 3, the first one, is to create a couple of podcasts. So we're using actors. Now, what I'm hoping what we're hoping with that is that those guys will kind of distract people by talking to them about, you know, they've arrived and they can do this, there's places where they can stay, they can be booked, where, you know, talk about what events happen on a regular basis, tell them a little bit about the town, just getting them over that 5 minutes space. There is also that 5 minute part of the trail, but there is also that you'll notice in phase 4 we put about stencil work on pavements. So that was another option, and it was specifically for Station Approach Road. So we could, I mean, there were a few other things, like there's a chopped down tree there, and we thought about maybe that could be a carving of a raven, obviously. He's called Rami, our raven, by the way, and that's because I've noticed that across the generations, in fact, one of the shelters on East Cliff, Lower East Cliff Promenade, has a big tag, Rami. So, you know, that's an 18-year-old, 16-year-old. But I have friends that are in their 70s that say Rami. So it kind of, and in their 40s, so it's kind of intergenerational knowledge of Rami, the raven now. So, yes.
Councillor Austin. Councillor Austin.
I just wanted to say, I know there has been a decision made about using Station Approach Road, but I don't understand why we don't take people into the park and down the high street. It's so much more visually appealing, there's so much more going on, you can see you're getting into town. Station Approach Road is so long.
Okay, Councillor Orban?
Yeah, 2 things. Firstly, I just wanted to thank Rebecca for the amount of hard work. It's a tremendous amount of work, and it's really enterprising, and I think it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And secondly, Chair, I'd like to propose the recommendations on page 6.
Seconded. Oh, then we will. So that is that we wish to support and proceed with item 6 because we have already voted on all of the other ones. Okay. In that case, all in favour? Brilliant. There you go. Good job, a job. Okay. Just. That is the end of the agenda. I just wanted to comment that Rebecca has sent out an update of the empty properties register and say thank you very much and how useful it is. I didn't know if anyone had any comments on it. No. Okay, in that case, we'll just note that that information has been made available. It only came out today. So, okay, thank you very much. Wow. One of our earliest. Sorry, very quickly. Date of next meeting. It's down on your agenda as 11th of October. Both the chair and the vice chair are going to be absent at that time. And so we are looking at an alternative date. So
make hay while the sun shines and spend all your budget then.
Well, you can try if you like. That may be the decision. But if that's the case, then the chair of the council will take over as the chair of town promotion. So you'll have to make hay with him.